Breaking news all over the gaff for West Ham fans today, but if all goes well over the next few days, hopefully we'll have a new right back and a new striker, and it's the striker position which I'll be discussing. The update is from Fabrizio Romano, and he says, understand West Ham have offered 30 million plus one young player as part of the deal for Jhon Duran. Negotiations ongoing with Aston Villa to reach an agreement. He also goes on to say West Ham asked about Dovbik's situation in recent days, but it's now between Atletico Madrid and Roma for that signature. So, we've made a bid for Duran. I want to break this down into two different bits because there's good news and bad news as far as I'm concerned, and it's because of the offer we've made. If the young player hadn't been included, I think that this is just positive, and I'm not too happy about which young player has been offered to Aston Villa. We'll deal with that a little bit later on. But first, the actual deal, in fact that we are making moves for Jhon Duran. I think that part of it's good. And put your opinion of the Villa striker to one side for one moment. What this means is that Lopetegui and Steidten have decided who their number one target is for that striker position. We've sounded out various different clubs such as Girona and Dovbik, and we've decided that Duran's the one we want, and that's who we're going to go get. So I'm happy that we are now making a serious move for who we want as striker at West Ham. That's good, that's encouraging. Also, the thing that I do find encouraging is the last couple of days in regards to the Duran reporting side of it. You don't often hear reports from this player or the agent in regards to this until the deal's complete. However, both have been a little bit loose-lipped. And the talk is that Duran spoke to Lopetegui already, and after that conversation, Duran decided West Ham's a club I want to go to. I want to go there, I want to play there, and I want to play under him. And the reason I think that's encouraging is not necessarily because of that. It's because Lopetegui will know what he's getting with Duran, and off the back of it, he and Tim Steidten have decided, nope, this is the guy. Because I have concerns, and I still have concerns despite that conversation, regarding Duran's behaviours, his commitment to West Ham long term. And what I will not have is if we sign Duran, but in a few months, in a year's time, this happens with West Ham where he's playing silly buggers on social media and he's trying to manoeuvre a move away from West Ham. I ain't having any sympathy. I'm not giving any sympathy to Tim Steidten. I'm saying, no, you knew exactly what you were buying when you got Duran. And it's a bit like Marko Arnautovic. We benefited from Marko Arnautovic wanting out of Stoke City. So when he wanted out of West Ham, I found it hard to really have too much sympathy for the club. Look, you want to get in the waters and swim with sharks. Don't be upset when eventually you get bitten. However, what I would also argue is we're only getting Duran because he has caused problems with Aston Villa, and he's caused chaos with the Aston Villa fan base, and it's because of those that they're willing to sell him, or should I say wanting to sell him in the summer. Had he not caused all these issues, the future may be different for him at Aston Villa, because in terms of the player, his ability and potential, I don't think anyone's disputing the talent. It's just how he carries himself off the pitch, which has made him unwelcome at Villa Park. So it looks like Steidten and Lopetegui have decided that's the man, let's make our move. 30 million plus a young player, and we're going to discuss that in just a second. But if you're new around here, please do subscribe to Hammer's Chat. It's completely free, it takes a few seconds, and also do drop a like on the video as well if you're enjoying it by clicking thumbs up. It's free, helps out the channel, helps out the video, makes me quite happy. 1/3 of you watching this haven't subscribed. Let's decrease that number, please. Back to the deal, the young player. Whilst it hasn't been confirmed it's Lewis Orford, it makes sense. Aston Villa approached West Ham a few weeks ago, or made an offer to West Ham a few weeks ago for Lewis Orford, which we rejected. Now the situation with Lewis Orford, who's captain of England under-18s, is that he's got less than 1 year to go in his contract. It expires at the end of June next summer. So this needs dealt with. But the club have yet to make a contract offer to Lewis Orford. It just doesn't really make sense as to why we haven't done it. Now we've always struggled. One criticism I've always had of David Sullivan, I was hoping this would get resolved with Mark Noble and now Tim Steidten coming in. I was hoping this, what do we do with academy players that are breaking into the first team or expected to break into the first team? How do we deal with their contracts? Because it's a bit of the Reece Oxforditis. We know what happened back in 2016. He came into the first team, looked fantastic at 16 years old. We gave him a contract, signed him up. It didn't work out. And it feels like since then, because he's had his fingers burnt, Sullivan ain't too keen on these contracts for the youngsters that might make it at West Ham. And various players have left because of it. Now, I know someone's going to say, well, who's gone on to achieve anything? Who have we missed out on? It's not really the point. The point is that players are leaving that we wish to keep. And the reason they're leaving is because we cannot agree a contract with them. Now, we haven't even offered one to Lewis Orford yet. And that's what I find most disappointing and alarming. And I think he wants to stay. He's a West Ham fan. His family are West Ham fans. He's happy at the club. He's spoken about how he's hoping to break into the first team this season under Lopetegui. But the contract situation just hasn't been, I say resolved, it's not even been attempted to be resolved. And it looks like, it appears that he has been offered to Aston Villa, who want him, as a make-weight for us getting Jhon Duran. Now, I'll be disappointed, because I've got high hopes for Orford at West Ham. When I went to see the under-18s a couple of years ago live, Mubama scored a hat-trick in the game. I'm sure he scored he might have scored two. He definitely, I think he got a hat-trick, but he definitely scored a couple. Despite that, the two players I thought stood out by a mile were Orford and Earthy. And this is the good thing about doing these videos. If you really want to, you can go back and check. Right, it's there. I thought they were both excellent in the middle of the pitch. Orford in centre midfield next to Patrick Kelly, and George Earthy sort of in the number 10 role behind Mubama, in between Kadua and Marshall. Both of them were excellent. And since then, Orford's only impressed me. Like I said, captain of England under-18s, held in high regard by a lot of people. And there's an expectation that he could go on and make it at West Ham. I am one of those people. I know people will say, or will suggest, we get carried away with youngsters, and we do, and that's not a bad thing. To have high hopes for the players coming out of the academy, I don't think it's the end of the world. I try not to get too carried away. I like to think I don't anyway. One or two I've got wrong, certainly. Elise, right, I thought he'd make it. He's gone to Sunderland. He started well, but he hasn't really kicked on to the heights I thought he might have reached. So, of course, we'll all get it wrong. But I do have high hopes for Lewis Orford. So to see him leave, I'd be very disappointed. Very, very disappointed. Especially when our club's ambition is to play European football. That's the ambition of West Ham United. Whether we're good enough, we'll wait and see. It's literally in Lopetegui's contract. He's got a 2-year contract, and he gets a 3rd year automatically if we qualify for European football in the next 2 years. The standards have... Moyes, for all his critics, he's raised the standards of West Ham now. The standards and expectations of West Ham United are to now challenge for the European spots in the league next season. I think that's a fair expectation. It's obviously the expectation of the club. Otherwise, why is that clause in his contract? Why has Lopetegui signed that? Eventually, when you're in the European tournament, when it comes to squad registration, if you want to have 25-man squad registered, 4 have to be club trained, not just homegrown, they have to be club trained. It's different to Premier League rulings. Previously, we've been okay. We've had Ben Johnson, we've had Declan Rice, we've had Connor Coventry, we've had Anang, Mark Noble in his last year. We've had enough academy-based players to register a full 25-man squad in European football. If we were playing European football this season, we'd literally have none. We'd only be able to have 21 players because the other 4 that are required to be club trained, there isn't any. Now, likes of Potts and Orford are young enough, they don't need to be registered, they can still play. But in future, these are the players that would go on to become club trained and hopefully represent West Ham in the Premier League and in European competition. Should we be good enough, and should they be good enough? But I do have high hopes for him. I'll be gutted if he goes. And I'll be worried because people's argument, and it's valid, which is, well, who have we missed out on? Which players from the academy have left to go on and achieve anything? As I keep saying, it'll only take one. You only need one player to get wrong. And it could be Lewis Orford. He could go on and become a 20, 30 million pound midfielder independent. He might go on and do nothing. Well, I say nothing. Play League 1, League 2. I just don't think he will. I think he will go on and be a success in the Premier League. He's ambitious. I think he's fantastic on the ball. So when this news came out from Fabrizio Romano, I was torn because I'm like, get in, we're going after a striker, and I had my reservations over Duran longevity at West Ham, but the player ability-wise and potential-wise, I'm all for it. But to use Orford, it's taking the good feeling factor away from it a lot more than I perhaps expected, actually. And I'm almost, I say, gutted at the offer. I'm just a bit disappointed that this is the way we're doing it, rather than just agreeing a deal for Duran and trying to get Lewis Orford to sign a new contract at West Ham. That would be the ideal situation. But it also just feels like we haven't really attempted to agree something with Lewis Orford yet. And I think that's what I can't get my head around and what I'm struggling to agree with here. Had we made various different contract offers and they were all good offers for Lewis Orford's ability, age, stature in the squad, and he'd rejected them, then fine. The club would be forced to sort of add Lewis Orford in and get this Duran deal over the line. But we've not even done that. We've not even tried to get him to sign a new deal. And that's why I've got more frustrated doing the video than I'm more frustrated now than I was when I started recording, actually. I don't think I'll be alone in this. I think a lot of people won't mind. They'll say, I don't really care. I don't think he'll make it. Give him to Villa. Let's get Duran in. But I ain't on that side defence. And that's people's opinions. That's fine. That's their opinions. As long as you're honest. That's what I always say. Just be honest with your opinions. And my honest opinion is I don't want Lewis Orford to leave. I want him to stay at West Ham. And I don't think he'd break into the first team next season, by the way. I think a lot of people have got high expectations for him long term. I include myself in that. Personally, I was hoping he would sign a new deal and go out on loan somewhere, and Freddie Potts would have an opportunity in and around the first team next season. And that bit might happen, but just because Orford's the one that's leaving. And I was almost going to, well, I was going to do a video this week talking about the sale of Flynn Downs and how I think selling Flynn Downs made sense. And a large part of that was based on the potential progress of Potts and Orford. Well, not anymore anyway. Don't know how to feel about this. Well, actually I do. I do know how I feel about it. I'm happy that we decided that this is a striker because it's an important position, and I say getting on. I'm still pretty calm. We've done 3 signings. It's good. But I would have liked to have seen business this week and next week. At the end of next week, there's no new signings. That's when I'd start to get a little bit, you're getting a bit jittery here. The Villa game's only it's round the corner, and just come on, when we're going to get our next signing. So I'm pleased that we're going after Duran and that we've decided which one we want. Same with the right back. I'm glad that we've decided which one we want and we're moving to go get him. I'm just disappointed that Orford's going to go. I had high hopes for him. He might not go. It might not even be him. It's unnamed at this point, but I think it's quite well. What's the word? It's Express Employee thinks it's Lewis Orford. I think it's Lewis Orford. It's not been confirmed, but I think there's an expectation, and it makes sense. It makes sense as to why it would be Orford as well. Hopefully it is. Hopefully it's not. But if it is, and I've been ranting for nothing in the last 5 minutes, but I'll be pleased if it's not. Well, depending on who it is. Hey, start chucking George Earthy in there instead and copy and paste. But anyway, that's it from Fabrizio Romano. We've made a £30 million bid plus one youth player for Jhon Duran. Hopefully, for the club's sake, we can get this resolved soon. Villa want Orford, so they're not going to say take him out of the deal. They'll be pleased that they're going to get their man. They've identified him. It's not a difficult one to do. You look at England under-18s. He's a captain of that team. Captain of England under-18. That's a testament to the player's character as well as ability. So yeah, it's good news, but there's a subtopic, and I think that's disappointing news actually, and it's taking the shine off what should be an exciting thing. Buying a new player should always be exciting. And it is. I will be excited to see Duran in a West Ham shirt. But be disappointed to see Lewis Orford in an Aston Villa one.